Hello everyone, welcome back to Old Dad's Modeling Mess. And in today's video, I start learning how to use oil paints. Now, just going to warn you guys up front, this isn't like some fancy dandy build like, where I did the King 34 or any of that other stuff. This is absolutely 100% a test subject, so I can try to figure out this oil paint thing. So that's why there is a lot of chipping on it, and you are more than welcome to slam me, make fun of me, laugh, and all that stuff down in the comments below, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I am trying to mimic people like Night Shift and Reimagine Models, because those guys there, when I watch their videos, the way that they work it, it just they do it and it's just pure magic and works great. I need to figure it out. So that's exactly what this is for. Yeah, my experience with oil paints has been back when I was younger. You would just squeeze it out of the tube, grab you a paintbrush, and just start painting on your model. And we all know that that doesn't quite work out that well. So anyway, what I'm doing here is I started off with the darker color. I don't know. I get mixed vibes, I guess you want to say. I'll see some channels where they start with the lighter color first and then they do the darker, or they'll do the darker and then they'll do the lighter. I'm just doing it this way because, in all honesty, I think the darker color should be the one on the bottom, since it's the older rust, I guess, and then the newer rust, which is lighter, should be on top. But I could be wrong. But what I'm kind of like the way that I'm doing this right now is I'm just using little bitty. That's an 8. That is a triple aught 18, really fine brush, and I'm just barely getting some paint on the tip of it, and I'm doing it like I would when I would actually chip it with other paints. And here in a little bit, you'll see that as I'm going here and I get a little bit farther on, I didn't really like it because it didn't seem right. I know that when I go to thin it and stuff like that, and smooth it out, however you want to say it, I'm going to lose some of it. So I do end up going back over it and making them bigger for that reason. As you can see, I've already put the decals and stuff on it because, in all honesty, I try to do it that way as much as possible before I do all the weathering and stuff like that. Sometimes I will forget though, but I want to have that stuff on there so I can do the weathering over it, like most people would. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's right about here where I decided that I didn't like the way that it was going, so I went over them again. And then this is the crimson, and it worked out great. Once I got the right amount of paint where I wanted it, it worked out good. Now the orange, we'll get to that here in a little bit. The orange actually threw me for a really good loop because I wasn't expecting what happened with that. Now, mind you guys, these are just ordinary hobbyist oil paints. They're not, like Tamiya or any of those fancy, AK brands and stuff like that that are specific colors for this. I am using the dark color there that looks almost black is burnt umber. Then there's the crimson right there, and then that's just an orange off to the side. And whew, let me tell you, I've noticed that when I do a lot of my painting and stuff like that, the paint seems to dry a little bit darker than it did in the jar. You know, it just, for some reason, it does. And the orange, we'll just say it didn't. It actually went the opposite way. It actually got brighter. But that's the whole point of this video, is for me to learn how to do this stuff. So, yeah, I think I'll throw on a song. You guys can watch me get going here, and I will check back in here in a second. Okay. Now, what you see me doing right here is I'm actually using the enamel thinner to thin down uh, the crimson there. And it took me a few go arounds at it because I didn't realize until later on that using that really fine brush was the big problem with that part of it. You know, trying to get the paint there to be more evenly spread instead of just a big glob of crimson red. But now we're getting into the orange, and this one here, I did just like I did with the crimson red. I started off really small, and I was thinking, you know, okay, I just need to fit it inside this little crimson red area and all that, and you know, I just kept going with that train of thought. I I was being really, really cautious, basically. You know, I was somewhat relieved and excited that I was able to get the the red to turn out the way that it did. That was the first, I mean, I've done it with, the acrylics and, but this one here, I've never done it with the oils before. And I keep hearing, other channels, especially Night Shift, talking about how it's much easier to work the paint when it's oil paints and enamels. I absolutely have. I've never had any good results with enamels unless I've used my airbrush, paint like a car body or something like that, or something big. I've never done the enamels either. So if I get the oil paints here and get to where I like it and I'm good with it, then that's what I'm going to do. Now, here's where I kind of mess up a little bit because I go back to that same thing I did with the red. It just didn't seem like there was enough on there. So I go back and I go over all of it and at least double what's on there. And this is where not knowing and not testing it like on a piece of the sprue or something like that to see what it's going to look like. This is where it kind of comes back to bite me a little bit because, as I said earlier, the paints always seem to dry darker than what they are, except for this orange. This orange ends up turning out really, really, really super bright. At first I was like, oh shit, I just ruined this. Wow. And then, I'm not gonna lie, I've watched, as I said before, Night Shift Reimagined Models, and they go back in well after the paint has started to dry and all that stuff with their thinners and have been able to work it. So that's what I did. I went back in and, I was able to get it, but, later on in the video, you'll see where it was really quite the surprise of how bright that it got. And I did the same thing when I was using the thinner to, smoothing everything out and all that stuff. I started off small and, just using small amounts, just trying to get that little drop going and stuff like that. And all that did was just make that little drop a little bit bigger, and it made it even brighter. It was an actual learning experience, but it turned out to be good because, I mean, you know, I found out that I could go back, you know, an hour or so later and actually reactivate it and move the stuff to where I wanted it and how I wanted it. I've never, you know, never been able to do that before because I've never done it before. So, yeah, this is, like I said, this is absolutely all brand new learning for me, and it, I'm happy with what I've learned so far, and by no means am I like some expert now, and I'm going to be out there, harping about you got to do it this way. No, yeah, yeah. What you see me doing right now is my honest to God first real attempt at using oil paints. So, yeah. Hopefully, if some of you out there that have never done this before, maybe this will give you the courage to give it a shot. I'm tired of, honestly, only working with acrylics and pin washes and stuff like that. uh, I I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely, for some reason, I cannot get the Tamiya panel liner to work for me. What I can get for me to work though is the track wash. Now I can do the track wash just like you do the Tamiya panel liner, but I can't get the Tamiya panel liner to work like it. I have no idea why. Uh, yeah, the only difference is, and I've tested this, is when I use the track wash, I use my brush here, and I've tried that, and I still get the same. It just that for some reason that panel liner just it soaks out and stains it. The track wash, I have I have absolutely no issues using that. Um, and yeah, now I didn't use track wash or any of that on this here. I actually uh, used the burnt umber, trying to test that, see how that would work for panel lines and stuff like that. Uh, for me, it didn't quite work out so well. It worked. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It just wasn't the right color because it dried lighter. I don't know why, how. I don't know if it was just because there was so much, maybe some residue or something from all the other stuff that's on here, because I guarantee you, I probably have used a good capful of the thinning all this down. Right here you can see where I'm just going in with a little bit of thinner, just a little dot, and I'm just hitting just that little circle there, and yeah, it as you can see, this is my second go at it. The first go spread the little dots to the size they are now. So now I'm trying to thin it down even more. And I don't know if it's now yet when it dawned on me that I should switch brushes, or if I should start using more thinner, because as I said, this is all a learning experience. So yeah, you see, I'm just thinning down that little spot there. In all honesty, I really think the biggest problem with all this, with the reason why I first started like this, was I was hoping or trying not to mess up the paint underneath, because that this isn't the actual. I did paint the kit. I primed it and I painted it, and yeah, right there I'm starting to get to where I need to. This doesn't seem to be working because some of the spots that I've already done, the thinner's already evaporated and the spots are still looking like they were. So that one big spot there up in the corner by the shovels, I added a little bit more. And so now that's what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to add a little more to even all that out. And this is where, you know, I actually started to have to use my brain and start thinking, how do I fix this? And I let it dry. I believe I let it dry again. I think I give it another hour or so, and then I come back in with the last attempt with the bigger brush and do that. I could be wrong, but I'm going to knock out another song or two while you guys get plenty of footage to make fun of me with. So I'll check back with you here in a second. So, have I put you guys through enough agony here? Yes, it's been almost 10 minutes and I'm still going at it with this. And as I said, coming up here shortly is where it dawns on me that I need to start using more thinner. And for some reason, it's not clicking in my head just yet that, I should change brushes. Soon it will, but as you can see though, this is my third attempt here at doing this, and it's actually starting to work. It's just, as I said earlier, I've got actually I don't know if I said it earlier or not, but I've got over 3 hours of footage of me messing with these oil paints, and it's coming along, but it's coming along very slowly. And for me, at the time I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, man, dude, when I watch these guys' channels, it goes a little bit faster for them. And it's finally, I think right about here is where I just said the hell with it. And then yep, I get the bigger brush out, and now things start to happen. And this here, I'm also using a little more force with the brush too. Beforehand, I was just getting it, and I was just smearing that down, the thinner, instead of moving the paint itself. I was just, I was getting the thinner on there, and I was spreading it out how big I wanted it, but I really wasn't messing with the paint itself. And then this here is where it really started to change for me and work out good. It took me a little bit, but as I said before though, with this being my first real attempt at this stuff, I would do a little bit, and then I'd let it dry, and then I'd come back in, and then I'd do my touch-ups, and then I'd let that dry and see where it was at, and then I'd touch it up again, and I kept going over and over and over with it until it finally came out to the way I wanted it. Now, when I do this the next time, I'll know better, but I'm also going to I'll grab one of my tester models that I have, and I will do a quick little test run where I put some oil paint on there, and then I use the bigger brush to do all this with while it's still wet in the beginning, just to see how that works. This one here, like I said, I'm learning, I'm testing things and trying to mimic what I've seen others do on their channels before. So even though it's agony to sit here and watch this, it really came together with this here. And once I figured that out, I flew through the turret. I think the turret may have maybe taken me an hour, a little over an hour to get done. And so, yeah, it was, I did that. And then after that dried, I don't know if you can see it there or not, but if you noticed, instead of the panel lines having a dark color, they've got that light color. Well, that's where I use the burnt umber, and it had that effect. I don't know why. Next time I'm going to try the black, because I do have black, and I'll try that to see if I can get it to work right, because I want it to actually look like it's been panel lined. And as I said before, I just have absolutely no luck with Tamiya's panel liner. I mean, you can see I've got a full bottle of it back there, and I don't know what it is. I just can't get it to work. I tried it in those vents back there by the mufflers. Those didn't work out. None of it did. The only thing that I have that works good for me right now is the track wash, and I want to save that for the tracks, damn it, because that's what it's for. But with the turret being knocked out, I just said to hell with it. It's not looking bad. I want it to look like it's kind of been sitting, like at a base, in the lot, waiting to be used and stuff like that. So it's going to be a little dirty and dusty, but it's not going to be all greasy and grimy and everything like that. So I figure, why not? I'm using the pigments now to get just a little more rust effects there on the tips of the mufflers, and then get the soot there on the fenders, because no matter what, you're still going to get some on there. And overall, this really was not bad or anything like that. It actually did really teach me some on this. Again, like I said, first time, so I'm not going to preach its praises and all that stuff. It worked good, and hopefully I'll get better with it. But as you can see in this shot here, the orange has dissipated quite a bit, and that's what I wanted to do. I want to have that rusty effect because it's been sitting there, but not too rusty. Not like the track I did there, but because they don't have paint on them. But yeah, I mean, overall it worked out really good, I think. So I'm going to continue trying, and we will go from there. Only thing left to do now is to make sure that I get Andy's bucket on there, and we'll be good to go. As always, guys, thank you for watching my videos. If you like this sort of stuff, please don't be afraid. Drop a like and a comment down below. Even if it's a slam because I'm doing something wrong, I don't mind. Bring it on. Let's go. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Helps the channel grow. Gives me more reasons to try new things and stuff like that. I mean, hey. Plus, it's free, right? Except for that notification when I post new videos. Also, we have a Discord that is free as well. Doesn't cost you nothing except for notifications when we're in there talking. We have channels for everybody to hang out and talk. We have a channel for you guys to post pictures of your own builds. And let me tell you, these guys are absolutely badass builders. You need to join just to see their stuff. They're just that damn good. So, in the description box down below, click that link, join Discord, subscribe if you haven't already, and until the next video, guys, I will see you later. Bye-bye.